What's up, guys? It's your boy Josh Showtime. It's Showtime's Fight Form. I got my boy Josh here, and we gotta talk about Francis Ngannou versus Anthony Joshua. But first, RIP to my guy, Akira Toriyami. Look, I had to wear it, had to rock the gear. I've been rocking Dragon Ball Z stuff all week. The legacy of Dragon Ball, I don't know if you're how much of a fan or if you watched it growing up, but that was my childhood. Like, legit, if you look at my work studio, I got Dragon Ball Z all over here. It's been here. That kind of what made me like fighting to even begin with. So it kind of started my MMA boxing journey to begin. But yeah, man, like, sorry, sad death, but at the end of the day, his legacy will forever live on. And I am super happy to say that I watched it growing up, and I can't wait because, as you know, I'm having a kid. Cannot wait to be able to expose my kids to the same exact show that I fell in love with. And hopefully they like it too, because my wife doesn't. But yeah, I don't know if you watched it, if you had anything to say, but before we go into the fight, we just wanted to bring that up.
Yeah, absolutely. Rest in peace to the legend. This is part of my childhood too. Definitely watched Dragon Ball Z before church on Wednesdays when I would go for youth group. So big fan of the show. Rest in peace to the legend. And I too will probably mention this to my kids moving forward. But speaking of kids, congratulations to you and your wife on your soon-to-be newborn. So congratulations, a big accomplishment.
Appreciate it, man. I feel real excited about that. But let's go ahead and talk about this fight that this video is going to last longer than the fight did. So as we know, Anthony Joshua absolutely demolished Francis Ngannou, made him look like he never ever belonged, should have never been in there, and did what Tyson Fury should have done months ago. So first things first, we both had predictions. We were right. We both said Anthony Joshua was going to win by stoppage. You thought it was going to be a little bit more of a tougher challenge, but you still knew that he would figure him out and eventually get the KO. I just completely knew he would dominate. I stylistically, everything when it came to the fight, I knew he would not take him he would not take him light like Tyson would. He wouldn't come out of shape like Tyson was, and all this other stuff. So I mean, it was just the clues were there, but we wanted to give Francis more of a shot because we wanted to believe into the anomaly that there is a guy who could break the matrix of boxing and can challenge the very best in the world, but we realized that's called a sweet science for a reason. So we'd love to hear what you thought about. First, how was your reaction during the fight? And what's your thoughts after?
Well, right when the knockout happened, it was one of those knockouts where you just stop in your tracks. It was hard for me to be like, oh, or like, wow. It was one of those, oh. And the other thing I have to say is I was wrong. AJ went in there. Yeah. I knew he was going to get by stoppage, but I didn't think it was going to be a one-shot killer second round knockout. So I was anticipating a more experienced Francis coming into the fight, which led to my prediction of it being more of a competitive fight. But I would say that AJ did what other boxers probably should have done but didn't want to do because the money was so good. For example, I think Mayweather could have gotten McGregor out of there a lot sooner, and some of these other MMA boxing mixes, right? But AJ did what a boxer probably should do to an MMA fighter. I'm just shocked that he did it in the manner that he did it, one shot knockout of the year type highlight.
And like, to put it in perspective, Francis has never even been dropped, ever. 4-ounce gloves, boxing, he has never been dropped. So to see him not only get dropped twice, but that was a vicious KO. Like, legit, you was like, is he okay? Kind of knockout. He was down for a little bit. Like, that was one of those, it can change your career kind of knockouts. And it's not even being hyperbole. Like, you really look at that knockout. One, he really could have tore his ACL the way that he even first fell and then went backwards.
He became a meme.
Yep.
He became a meme. I mean, right after the fight. So, which is happening time to time, obviously.
I hate that, but yeah.
Right. But at the end of the day, his boxing skills weren't there. He did the worst thing you can do as a fighter. Drop your hand while the power hand is coming. He dropped his left hand. AJ's right hand saw it right on a missile, KO'd him. I just feel like this is just what happens when an MMA fighter gets into a boxing ring. I know
I
you feel indifferent, but
yeah.
sometimes, in my personal opinion, AJ did what Mayweather could have done, but didn't want to do to give the fans a show. Tyson Fury couldn't do it because he just wasn't dedicated or disciplined, whatever you want to call it. AJ said, "You know what? Enough of this. I'm gonna get him out of there," and he did it a lot sooner than I thought he was going to.
I'm gonna enjoy my 30-40 million dollars, and then I'm gonna just
Yeah,
go ahead and say peace. I
yeah,
actually think the biggest mistake outside of dropping his hands was actually him switching stances. I thought that he
mm,
got a little bit too confident. First round was actually going pretty well. I thought he looked good until obviously he got dropped. And I mean, I did think that he was throwing the hook a little too much and kind of being a little bit too predictable with the strikes. But yet and still, I thought he looked confident. Thought he looked better than he did versus Tyson Fury. Felt more comfortable. But as soon as he switched stances, everything went downhill. Now, as a boxing guy who's been boxing a good portion of your life and who knows boxing, who's grew up on boxing, you know when you are southpaw, there is one shot that you're super exposed to that you have to be worried of if you ever do switch stance or if you're in a southpaw, and that's the two. If it's not smart to jab with the guy that's southpaw. Normally, what you will do is you want to shoot that two, and then you break the guard and you try and you honestly let a devastating hit. That's exactly what happened. He switched stance. He didn't see the two coming because it's the quicker, the easier shot to land, and it lined it up perfectly. He started jabbing to the body, which I did call. I said it was gonna be some jabs. Jabbed him up to the body, and what did Francis do? Francis thought that jab was coming to the body. Nope, it was a two, and that two landed crucial and it dropped him. That to me, I personally think that took away Francis' confidence. Like I'm not saying that he was willing to give up, but I really start to he's human. Once you get dropped for the very first time, and especially if you're a seasoned vet, it hits different. You gotta understand, you got an ego. You're one of the best in the world. You just beat Tyson Fury, who everybody said was the best of our generation, and people think that you beat him. Like plenty of people think you beat him. You have that confidence in your head that I really am one of the best in the world until you're not. You get dropped in the first round. You're embarrassed. And that takes away all your confidence. That takes away your cardio, your thought process. You got to get that back. He's never been there before. So how do you really know how to respond? Second round, we already know what happened. We don't really got to talk about it. Got caught with the same shot. And it was bad. It was just a terrible showing. And it unfortunately, like he didn't look good. Like, but I will say this: I take that for 20 million any day. I'm sorry, but I
I
will.
yeah, yeah, he definitely made his money here. I actually, as unfortunate as the knockout was for him and AJ, I do still think that Francis has a career in boxing, but I
Really?
think, yeah, but I think he needs to take a Jake Paul route in the sense of way lower competition. I don't
You not gonna
think the
put him in there
competition.
with Zhang?
I would not put him in there with Zhang after what I saw. I thought going into this fight, if Francis put on a good showing, similar to what he did with Tyson, then he would still be on a good trail, even at an 0-2 record, to get a fight with a Wilder, get a fight with a Zhang, right? Me personally, I was going for the Wilder fight. I said if he at least looks good in this fight, even if
Me
AJ
too.
stops him in the 10th, 11th round, whatever it is, if he can show progression, then I could see a Wilder fight. They're very Saudi connected, as you know. But I think at this point, he should take a huge step back in the competition. I know the money's really good in boxing, but there are a lot of journeymen in boxing that I think he fares better against, as opposed to someone in his prime, a lot younger, in Anthony Joshua. Again, Anthony Joshua did exactly what he was supposed to do, in my personal opinion.
I agree. I agree.
But I do, but I
But
do think there is I do think there is a future still in boxing for Francis. However, being 38, 40, and getting into that age range at this juncture in his career, it's going to be a little bit more difficult, but he still can make money in this. I don't want to see him give up after a knockout like this, but we should take a step back.
he definitely has to take a step back. And the crazy thing is, there are people who are still clamoring for Deontay Wilder versus Francis Ngannou who are still bringing it up because they both look bad. Granted, Francis looked worse, but Deontay Wilder looked terrible as well. So people wanted to bring that up. I have no idea. It's mainly MMA people who think he has a chance. My thing is, this is gonna go just as bad. Matter of fact, it's probably gonna be worse. Not even. Here's the facts. Joshua is a more technical boxer. That's just a fact. He's more technical than Deontay Wilder, which is why I personally had Deontay Wilder losing to Anthony Joshua for a long time. Now, granted, the power of the equalizer that Deontay has is a difference, and if he lands that on Joshua, he will sleep him. I just personally thought that Anthony Joshua would land first. Deontay Wilder does get hit, and I just think that it was not think I know Anthony Joshua was one of the hardest punchers in the heavyweight division. Like, he's not somebody to be slept on. If he lands correctly, you will go down. Like, simple and plain. He hits very hard, and we just seen that versus Francis. We saw that versus Otto. He hits hard. Okay, so like I said, I always had that in my mind. But yet and still, when you compare power, we know Deontay Wilder has the strongest punch in this generation, and you can put his punch. Granted, it's only one punch, but it don't matter because it lands and it's harder than anybody else's that we've seen in the past 20 years. So you put that against Francis Ngannou. Yes, they're both not technically sound, but Wilder's still more technically sound. Also, the fact that Deontay punches a little harder than Francis. I'll say a little bit, but I'm being facetious. He punches harder than Francis. And we just saw how open he is to straight shots. He will get hurt bad. Like, no joke. Like, I'm talking like his career will be altered if he fights Deontay Wilder in boxing. I don't personally see that. I don't care to see that fight anymore. I don't think it's safe. Francis just got a gruesome knockout. I'm always the retiring kind of guy. I personally think Francis should retire. I don't think he should fight in MMA. Why? The money's not going to be right. It's not going to be nowhere near what you're making. Boxing, just because I don't think there's any more lucrative fights except for Deontay Wilder, and I just told you that's a career-altering fight. So I'm just not really a fan of just fighting anymore. I'm just got my money. I'm 37 years old. Let me enjoy the rest of my life and be in America or go back to Cameroon and change people's lives there.
Yeah, I mean, that definitely is an opportunity for him to ride out into the sunset. He is at a good opportunity to do so. Made a lot of money just now. I think pride overcomes everything. I don't think someone like him wants to go out like that. So we'll see what happens. But to switch to whatever happens with Francis will happen. Now, I want to talk about AJ. There was a lot of talk, and I just want to shut this down. There was a lot of talk about AJ after this fight that with this knockout, he's arguably the number one, if not, Eddie Hearn put him at the number one spot for the heavyweight division. We need to stop that right now because I'll tell you why. Actually, I'll give you two reasons. I'll give you three reasons why. One, he hasn't beaten Tyson Fury. Two, he lost to Usyk. Three, he lost to Usyk twice.
Right.
So two, there are my three reasons. Not only did he not beat Tyson Fury, he lost to Usyk, and then he lost to Usyk again. And on top of that, I know Klitschko is a Hall of Famer. Trust me, I get all of that. But he was around the age 40-ish when he had his rumble with Joshua, got knocked down in that fight. We've seen Joshua exposed on so many occasions that I cannot sit here and say that based off a knockout, highlight reel, knockout of the year, candidate, knockout, but it was against an MMA fighter close to 40 years old. That doesn't catapult you above a Usyk. It doesn't catapult you in front of a Tyson Fury. And to be honest with you, the way Parker was looking on the undercard, I could see him giving Joshua some real trouble as well. So,
hey, you talk about turning a corner. That's two big wins. Two big wins.
Yeah. So, I mean, the way that he's fighting right now, you could really throw him in the number 3 spot, depending on what you're really into as far as stylistically speaking, as these heavyweight goes. But Eddie Hearn, a lot of boxing Twitter media, is he number 1 after a fight like this? Absolutely not. If he beats the winner of a Usyk-Tyson fight, we can talk about it. If that winner of the Tyson-Usyk fight is Usyk, AJ beats Usyk, definitely see probably a 4th fight happening, right? But right now we need to pause on that one. And I know I sounded overly compassionate on that, but it started to really bother me that that was actually being a serious conversation amongst
It's
credible sources.
Eddie has to do that. I get it. I'm not even mad at Eddie for bringing that up. At the end of the day, that's your fighter. You got to promote him. Cool. But we also got to remember the Usyk fight was very recent. Like, I was in Indiana when that fight happened. Matter of fact, when both fights happened, I was in Indiana. I haven't been in Indiana longer than 2 years. So, like, let's pump the brakes. Like you said, it ain't that deep. He's the number 3 fighter, and it's okay. But Usyk is number 2 at right now, but could be number 1. Who knows? Tyson looks like he's in shape and he's getting ready, and he's going to be a tough guy to beat. But at the end of the day, those 2 are the best. There's no debate. There's nothing we can talk about. Those are the best guys. I get it. Phenomenal performance, but you did what you had to do. And unfortunately, yes, there was a risk with this fight, and there was a minimal reward. That's just a fact. You took the fight, though. It wasn't a big reward for this fight because you did. No matter what, if you struggled, that was an L. If you lost, that's an even bigger L. You winning did barely anything. That's just a fact. It sucks, but it's a fact. Francis has so many questions because of who he fought. If he knocked out Deontay Wilder, maybe then he fought Joseph Parker and he knocked him out, this, that, and the third, then it's like, all right, this guy actually can box. That didn't happen. He fought a unmotivated, ridiculous Tyson and he beat him. I mean, not beat him, but he lost. But he barely lost. Oh, and side note, quick thing too. I also thought the biggest issue was, and I think you noticed this too, was that Francis was a lot more active in this fight. In the first 2 rounds, he threw a lot more punches, and he seemed like he was a lot more aggressive in this fight compared to when he fought Tyson. If his punch count was much lower when he was fighting Tyson, because I think he was worried about possibly getting caught, being knocked out. And this has to do with being comfortable. Once you're comfortable, you can let them hands go. I'm pretty sure you've seen Francis fight in MMA. He's aggressive. He's throwing them things. Like from the bell, there's only one fight where he absolutely did nothing. But the other fights, he's throwing bombs every chance he gets. So, yeah, it just was not a good showing. But this was a setup fight for him to lose personally. Like it was going to happen.
Yeah.
It was right, but it is.
Yeah, and, it's unfortunate, but that is what happens when you go against a Olympian in Anthony Joshua, a true boxer. So best of luck to Francis. I do see him getting back in the ring a couple more times. Like you mentioned earlier, the money was too good. And like you also mentioned, he actually was kind of looking a lot more comfortable this fight. So if he takes it back a notch on his competition, I'm sure we'll see him again. But I'm excited to see where Anthony Joshua's career goes, more so than Francis after this fight.
Absolutely. But as always, man, thank you guys for watching. Make sure you follow me at Papa Showtime. Really Papa Showtime now. Josh Showtime, whichever one you find me at. And Josh, where can they find you?
Absolutely. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter on @firstclass_Vias.
All right, guys. Make sure y'all stay blessed and have a great week.